Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. We're approaching Asian trading on the 12th of September, and we've just had a really wild Wednesday in Bitcoin and a lot of markets. Let's talk about where we are first of all with Bitcoin. Now, this big picture is the daily chart of Bitcoin, and this is the sideways. If we take everything off, this is the sideways correction that we have been in since we made the high at the beginning of March. And you can see in Bitcoin, every time we've made a bottom in this choppy sideways correction, first time back to this 20 moving average has always been a little bit of resistance. And for me, it's a really good trade indicator. I use the 20 EMA, but to be honest, the simple 20 moving average works just as well. And so here we are. We are stuck for the last 3 days underneath this 20 moving average, and you can see that when we tried to rally at the end of August, we couldn't get above it. That was what kept us in this downtrend. When we tried again on last week on the Tuesday the 3rd of September, we could not get above this 20 moving average, and here we are again stuck sideways underneath this 20 moving average. We've seen this before when we have bottomed and when we have got above it. We have seen really nice moves higher. For example, back here, when we tried to rally in May, we got stuck underneath this 20 moving average, and then again when we were on our way up again, it was a really good trade indicator. So here we are a little bit sideways. So now we know pretty clearly we've got above our first resistance that said we were going to see a bigger squeeze, and we know pretty well now that if we can get above this 20 moving average, which is at 57,900, that our next target is going to be retesting or back testing this $60,000 level, which has been pretty tough resistance when we tried end of August to the beginning of the month. And that's where we are going to say hi to the daily 50 moving average, which is our next resistance. Whenever you're coming off a bottom and you've had a bit of a downtrend, you've always got to battle your way through these moving averages to be going up again, and it gets a little bit bumpy. So here we are sideways. It's a bit disappointing because in stock indexes today, after CPI, if we look at this on an hourly chart, after CPI, everything had a really nasty shakeout, but the squeeze in stock indexes took us to new highs. I think there's quite a lot of volatility at the moment. I'm not sure that that's all down to those 0 day to expiry options. But yeah, it was unfortunate that we couldn't break out here, but a shallow pullback here on the hourly and then a turn higher and a break. We've got 3 touches of this trend line. We've had our third touch, little false break here. Above this 57,800, I think we should see a back test of 60,000 next, which will be a big test for Bitcoin, because we could roll lower here. We've done this before when we come off lows, and we're in a little bit of a position where if we look at this, we've kind of had our first bounce, and if we look at this on a 4-hour, we're in a little bit sideways here. I'm not ruling out that we don't potentially see another swing lower before we try again in this correction. It's a bit like we were here, when we look like we're going to challenge and keep going higher, and you can quite often do one more swing lower before you have another go. So till we break out, we haven't actually broken out, and it is possible that this correction lasts a little bit longer. We've got quite a bit of macro news tomorrow. We've got the ECB, which the euro is 57% of the dollar index, so it will have a bit of a move. They're expected to cut 50 basis points, and then before the US Open, we've got producer prices index, which market will be looking at to confirm if inflation is not in fact falling quite as fast as they were hoping for. So potential for quite a lot of volatility tomorrow as well, whilst we work our way out of this sticky sideways spot in Bitcoin. So that's where we are with Bitcoin. I wouldn't rule out another swing lower before we have an attempt again at moving higher. We are stuck underneath support and resistance as well in ETH. If we look at these previous swing lows, here we are sideways. We haven't even got back to our daily 20 moving average. ETH has been really underperforming. I'm not sure that I see this going on forever, but for at the moment, there's quite a lot of issues, I think, with ETH, and not least the underperformance of interest in the ETH spot ETF. So still underperforming. I still prefer Bitcoin to over ETH at the moment until this makes a little bit more of a kind of significant bottom. If we look at the hourly moving averages in ETH, we have not really kind of regained the hourly moving averages and holding above them the way Bitcoin is. So again, I wouldn't rule out a bigger three-wave correction lower in ETH. I don't kind of have a compelling buy signal yet, but I think if we could hold above 2,400, we should see a run to 2,550 next in ETH and back to some of these higher time frame moving averages. So yeah, tricky day, and this volatility is nasty. As I said, September can be nasty. October is coming. I think it's a really good time to just trade small and carefully until we get better trading conditions. The problem with Bitcoin is, when you think about it, we've had some really big moves and then we've really been sideways and pretty choppy since March. And the problem is you kind of need to keep your hand in and keep an eye on what's going on every day, because you could take 2 weeks holiday and miss the entire rally and we're back in, sideways price action again. So yeah, it's looking good, but it's not quite over the hump yet and on our way higher again. And September hasn't been awful yet. Let's hope it stays like that. There are some more charts of interest that I have got my eye at the moment on, but one of the ones that everybody always wants to look at and talk about is Solana. Solana, just like Bitcoin, here we are stuck underneath the daily 20 moving average and at these previous swing highs. And in Solana, it's also in a pretty important support and resistance level based on previous swing highs and swing lows. So for me, not quite, I'm looking for that lower high and a turn higher and some kind of bigger boss swing pattern in Solana if that's going to happen. Like a nice big inverted head and shoulders pattern here would definitely get me in, and I'd be looking for that right shoulder. But at the moment, I really don't quite see that happening. I like the bullish cross of these 4-hour moving averages. I am not disinterested. I'm just don't quite see it ready yet in Solana. So sitting on my hands waiting for one more swing lower, and if we make a lower high and turn higher, I might start putting my toe in. Two charts that we have been looking at quite a lot. First one is SEI. This is another one stuck underneath these daily moving averages. These moving averages, when your 20 is underneath your 50, when the shorter time frame is underneath the higher time frame, you're still kind of in a downtrend. So again, this has had a pretty nasty reversal, and we're a little bit sideways here. We have broken out of this kind of double bottom sideways range, and this potentially is a little bit of a back test. I actually like this more than ETH or Solana at the moment. I don't think that this is a terrible counter trend buy idea here. I like how we pull back to these hourly moving averages, and I can see for a swing higher in this one and back to 0.319, and above 0.319 I think we can start talking about a much bigger move higher. At the moment though, conservatively, I would really like to see that bigger move, push these moving averages the right way around, and then buy pullbacks. I would like to see it really back above this level, and then I think we've got some buying opportunities to come, because we would have this 886 reversal, and then we would have a target up here, the daily 200 moving average at 0.49 and then 0.62. So SEI still, I think, looks promising. Just not sure that right tonight is a good place to be jumping in or out in this one. Sui's another one. I kind of really like this. I really like this 5-wave move off the low that we made on the 5th of August and this really textbook 3-wave correction pullback. Except as we know from Bitcoin, sometimes that can lead to one more or a deeper pullback or a double bottom. Until we break out of this pattern or this trend line, we are not confirmed going up again in the next swing, and we're still in this chop zone. I like how we have pulled back to the daily 20 moving average and we're holding above it. That's a really good sign, and that we can say is the opposite of Bitcoin. If we go down to the hourly chart in this one, I also really like this 3-wave pullback and how we have righted all of these hourly moving averages the right way. So for me, this one, of all of the charts, this is, if I was, wanted to buy something tonight, SUI for sure is, for me, the best looking opportunity tonight as well. That one, then, and really looking to this trend line above, kind of 0.97, a breakout. And then when we go to the daily chart, back to the daily chart, where is our first target wobble level going to be? Well, it's going to be a retest of these highs and 200 daily moving average here at 1.11. And then we've got a measured move target up here, haven't we, at 1.39, around there. So if we measure this first 5-wave move like this, 3-wave pullback, that's kind of a retest of the highs of 1.39. I actually think we should go beyond that, but I'm going to go level to level to level. I really would like this to continue to 1.8. So nothing's going to happen though unless we get above this daily 200 moving average, which, as we can see, has previously been pretty tough support and resistance. So kind of really like SUI tonight to have a go at breaking out of this consolidation pattern. Another chart that's caught my eye tonight is Pendle. So the daily 50 moving average, can very often be pretty tough support and resistance. It's like your backstop when you're in a trend move. And when you close up on the other side of it and then find support from it, so say here it's been resistance, really tough resistance, but yesterday we closed above it, and today we pulled back, found support for it and moving higher. And generally you can say when you close above this daily 50 moving average in a trend move, you tend to see quite a strong move on the other side of it. And because we've got this really nice fib pattern reversal here, another 786 fib move, and we've closed and held above this 61.8 now, I'm looking for, on the upside, I'm wrong if we close back underneath 3.16 in Pendle. First target is going to be 4.0 and then 4.8 based on this fib pattern. And if we look at this here on the hourly, it's not quite, unlike SUI, it's not quite in the hourly buy setup. For me, potentially, we could still do 3 waves of correction here. But this, for me, is one that I would be stalking an entry on. And as long as we don't have a daily close back underneath 3.16, I think this has got really good potential to go higher. So TON, with everything that's gone on with Telegram, obviously this has been a really interesting coin for me. I'm really quite impressed by how this coin has made 5 waves up. And again, pretty nice textbook 3-wave pullback here, back to the 50% retrace from this July lows to the highs that we made July last year to the highs that we made in June this year. So this is a 50% retrace back to this previous swing lows and back to the weekly 50 moving average. This is kind of a textbook, really kind of correction in a trend after a 5-wave move that you would like to see here in TON. So we confirm the bullish reversal at this 50% level with a close back above this 38.2 when we backtest it. And this, unfortunately, has been the high we have not been able to get above, but if we can, then that would be the reversal confirmed. So this is the level that I'm watching in TON, and a close above it, 5.5, I think it's 5.564, close above 5.564, especially if we can hold support from this daily 20 moving average. Because of this 50% mean reversing markets, so markets that reverse at a 50% level, tend to keep mean reverting, which would mean our target, if we can break out above that resistance level, is going to be a 50% of this drop first. So that gives us a target up here of 6.3 if we can break these highs, first target. And then we would kind of expect to kind of see a 50% pullback and then, see if we go higher or if we, 50% and just... So that's how I'm looking in TON. I think we have got knocked back for now at this level. So what I would be looking for is a bigger bottoming pattern here. So again, a 3-wave pullback, something like an inverted head and shoulders, would be a pretty nice look here, wouldn't it? So keeping an eye on that one. And if you want to get alerted if we get back to these highs, put an alert on that level, and then you will get notified on your phone or however you're trading. So that's one I've got my eye on. One that I can prefer, everybody talks about ideas along ideas and targets. I don't think we always talk about enough about when we should be taking profit or getting out of the way. I like this pullback here on the weekly moving averages to RV, and I had a little RV which I'm selling tonight. And the reason I'm selling tonight, I'm not going to sell all of it, most of it, is here we are at this previous swing high where we're having a little bit of a pause, but it's also the weekly, newly printed, newly minted weekly 200 moving average. And when I look at this, normally, as you know, I just use a CCI as a trade trigger. But this RSI, I'm kind of a little bit concerned with, if we go down to a daily, what I call a bearish divergence. So what does that mean? It means that on the chart we're making a higher high in price, but on the indicator we're making a lower high, which usually is a warning sign of a bigger pullback. What do I mean by that? If we look back to the last time we had some of this bearish divergence, when the chart was making a new high but we were not here, it was here in December 2023, end of last year. And you can see here we made a high here on the RSI, and here we made a higher high on price but a lower high on the RSI, and that pointed to a bigger pullback. So it's not, on its own, this divergence is not a signal to get out, but that combined with the weekly 200 moving average and everything else points to me, just as we are having a little bit of a pullback here, that this could be a bigger correction because of this bearish divergence. So I've got out of the way. I'm going to wait for the next buy signal back to these moving averages and turning higher again to get back in again. And then if we don't get a buy signal when we pull back to these moving averages and we end up with a bigger pullback, then I'm going to sit out and wait for that bigger long entry. If we were to push higher, if I'm wrong and we push higher and we close back above this weekly 200 moving average and close at new highs, nothing to say you can't get back in again on lower time frame pullbacks, and the first target is going to be 192, which would be the big 236 fib retrace from the highs that we made in 2021 in RV. Okay, if there's anything you'd like me to look at, let me know.